Hello, this is Marcus Toole, and I'm here in my garden, and I am about to harvest some of what I have historically always called Mexican sage. I was in the garden center in Lowe's a few weeks ago, and I saw little baby plants of this stuff marketed as pineapple sage. I've never heard of it as pineapple sage before, but it's clearly the same stuff. And this is a sage. It's one that grows quite well in South Georgia. It's a perennial. It does way better for me than the annual sage that people are, typically grow in their gardens. And this actually works very well in cooking. And my sage is, it's a very rambunctious perennial plant. It's overgrowing its spot. So it could use a haircut for the sake of its neighbors, and I can dry it, plan to dry it, and use it in my cooking. And so, with no further ado, I'm going to go ahead and start picking my sage. So here's the plant, and this is one of my little banana pepper plants, and so you can see in some of the flower beds, and the sage is really overgrowing the other stuff. And so all I'm going to do is just cut it back quite a ways. It is currently June, I believe it's 21st, today's summer solstice. And this stuff has lots of growing season to grow back. So it's going to respond to this pruning by growing quite aggressively, I assure you. This blooms real pretty, and by cutting it, harvesting it, and aggressively like this may indeed cause it to not bloom so fast, but that's okay. As I said, it's got lots of time to grow and bloom, and I can get several harvests out of this stuff if I decide I want to. Now, what I'm going to do, I'm not going to bore you with harvesting the whole plant right now, but I'm going to real quickly show you how I dry it. Probably should wash it. Let's turn on the hose pipe. And so here's my hose pipe so you can see what I'm doing. And I'm just going to spray it down like this, just to try and knock any bugs and sand off of it that might be on it. Now, this method of drying sage, no one really taught me how to do this. I kind of figured it out when I was working as a missionary on the Musquetees Four Nations Reserve in Alberta, Canada. The elders there dry their native sage there all the time, which they use for ceremonial purposes. I don't plan to use this in any kind of religious ceremonial way. I just plan to use it in my cooking. But the elders know how to dry sage, and I am sure that their elder they use for their sage will work just fine for drying this sage. And if I've seen a similar kind of thing in dry climates used for drying peppers, I don't think drying peppers like this will work too good. Maybe it would with with a real thin wall pepper like cayenne, but I don't think it would on a lot of other peppers. I got a dryer, a veggie dryer for that. Actually, I bought it today. And actually, that's kind of what's motivated me to dry some sage. Is I'm going to make some dry spice mixes later on in the summer and in the fall. And because with some of the super hot peppers I'm growing this year, it's kind of helpful to mix them with something else in a spice mix, rather than just having the chili pepper full strength, because they are so extremely hot. Some of them. Some of the peppers I got, like the ghost peppers and the ghost scorpions and stuff like that, way hotter than the red pepper powder that you buy in the grocery store. Though that stuff is made out of cayenne peppers, and they're hot enough, and they ain't near as hot as these I'm talking about. And so you just kind of make a garland of this stuff. And I have some nails in my laundry room nailed into the wall, and I'm just going to hang this from the wall, and it will dry in my laundry room like so. And this is what the elders in Musquechee's Four Nations did with their sage. Now their sage didn't look much like this stuff. It's the same genus. And when this stuff, if it burns, now as I said, I don't plan to burn it in any kind of ceremonial. In fact, I don't plan to burn it at all. But when it does burn, when it dries and burns, it smells just like the stuff that the elders in Musquechee's Four Nations collect. And I would imagine this is called Mexican sage, or at least I'm used to calling it that. I guess it's from Mexico. And it wouldn't surprise me if the native elders there also use this stuff for ceremonial purposes, since this is their native sage. All right.
Hey y'all, this is Marcus Toole. This is actually June 22nd, and I picked the sage on June 21st, which is summer solstice, and it's been drying for one day. Of course, it's nowhere near dry, but it's the second day into it, and it's actually doing a pretty good job of drying. The laundry room is a good place for it, because this is, in the summertime, this is pretty much the warmest room in the house when the air conditioners are on. Anyway, this is how it's looking.